Hi, I'm Bisma, and you're listening to The Other C Word, a podcast about all things cancer from a stage 4 breast cancer warrior. We cover health and wellness, mind, body, and soul. Plan to leave each episode with hopefully some new insights and inspiration. Let's get into this week's episode. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we have a very special guest, Lindsay Keosayian. And Lindsay is a integrative nutrition health coach, and she'll be talking to us all about nutrition, food, and diets and trends and everything related to an anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory diet. Lindsay, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Bisma. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited and looking forward to chatting with you.
Wonderful. Me too. So I'd love to get started with your journey and what inspired you to get into the field of becoming an integrative nutrition health coach.
Sure. So my journey actually started around COVID. Was not expecting all of this to happen, but after battling COVID myself and dealing with a lot of long haul symptoms from COVID, I just kind of went down the holistic healing path. I went to a lot of conventional doctors trying to get help for all of the symptoms that I was having. And unfortunately, it wasn't working for me. So I took it upon myself to do a lot of research and education about nutrition and just ways to heal your body from within. And I took it upon myself to make a lot of changes and I noticed a lot of improvements. And I decided that I wanted to shift gears and focus my effort on helping other people do the same.
That's awesome. That's great. And then did you do a formal certification process?
I did. So I graduated from IIN and I got certified as an integrative nutrition health coach. So I took their accelerated program and I absolutely loved it. I learned so much from the program and I actually took it for my own knowledge and for my own health and my own healing. And then while I was taking the course, I learned, wow, I can actually coach others and help others. And that's definitely what I want to do because so many people need help. So it worked both ways because it helped me and now I can help others.
Yeah, I'm actually in IIN right now as well, so I'm probably like 2, 3 months into it. I was actually doing another program before, and as I started going through that program, I think what I've really learned from my own cancer journey is really finding things that I fully align with, and that other program I just wasn't aligning with as well. I didn't find the instructors as helpful, didn't find the content as informative as I wanted it to be, and then I switched over to IIN a couple of months ago, and I am completely obsessed with it. Like the level, like the depth of information, how relatable it is, like how useful everything is, like even for myself. And I just feel like it'll prepare me to be a much better health coach going forward.
Absolutely. I was blown away by just all of the information that I was receiving and all of the people that I was meeting through the process. And I knew that if I was waking up in the morning really excited to read the courses and watch the modules, then it was definitely working for me. So I definitely recommend it to anybody who's looking to go down that path and just learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually get kind of disappointed when I finish a module and I'm like waiting for the next one to be loaded. I'm like, oh, I wish I was already here.
That's funny you say that because after I graduated, I then looked into a couple other courses that they offered. And since then I've taken one or two other ones as well. So yeah, so it's kind of like an ongoing process that that's been working really well.
Yeah, that's great. And then, so I know that your coaching is broad. You're not cancer specific. You're doing nutrition and health coaching for the masses, but I also know that you have a personal story related to cancer. Could you share a little bit of that with us?
Sure. So when I was going through the whole process of becoming a health coach, and after I had pretty much, changed my lifestyle to heal myself, unfortunately, my mother was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And it was a complete shock to my brother and I, and just completely overwhelming, as I'm sure you can relate for sure. So, in addition to everything that I had learned for myself, about how food can heal and just holistic therapies and practices that you can do to help. I then dove into the cancer side of it because, my mom wanted to learn as much as she could and just do as much as she could to help. So we went down that road and I read so many books. I remember the first book that I read was Chris Beat Cancer. and I learned so much information from that. And yeah, I mean, my mom and I basically we did it together and we completely changed our diet. I had already changed mine previously, but went even further with a lot of his recommendations. And yeah, it was a long haul. And, my mom was only given a couple of months to live, and she ended up living for 15 months.
Wow.
So I do believe from the bottom of my heart that all of the holistic things that she was doing, really helped.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, 3 months versus 15 months is huge in the cancer space. So I definitely I'm sure everything that you guys were doing in addition to her treatment were that was helping her be here longer.
Absolutely. We did everything, my brother and I, and we're super close, and everything happens for a reason, and obviously we wish she was here, but I do believe that she saved my brother and I because we've made so many changes, and I don't think that we would have done all of that had she not gone through her own journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so sorry for your loss. I know cancer is just it's just such a devastating disease, and I'm so sorry that you've experienced that.
Thank you. And I think, unfortunately, it's so prevalent now and it's so common, and just everybody that you talk to, knows somebody or they've gone through it themselves. And just, a lot needs to change in terms of like what we're eating, what we're exposing ourselves to. And I believe that a lot of this is preventable because, most cancers are not genetic. So there's things that are affecting our lifestyle and our diet that we have the power to control. And unfortunately, I just don't think a lot of people know. They don't have the education or knowledge. And it's really not until you get sick do you start to change things. I know there's a saying, you could have a million problems, but until you have a health problem, then that becomes the only problem. And it's so true.
That is so true. Like that becomes your entire existence when you have a health problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's maybe get into food philosophy a little bit. So let's say, when you do work with clients, or if it's someone that either has cancer or doesn't have cancer, what are kind of your starting points? Like, what do you say to someone who wants to eat cleaner or, eat better in general?
So I think a lot of it is looking at what you're currently doing. And I think one of the biggest things would be eliminating refined sugars and processed foods, packaged foods that have a ton of ingredients on the back. If I look at something and it takes me more than a couple seconds to read the ingredient label, then it's not something that I'll be purchasing from the grocery store anymore.
Right.
And I do think that it's more about like adding in more whole foods, adding in more fruits and vegetables rather than having like a restrictive mindset, because that can turn into something. But when you're adding in more whole foods, fruits, vegetables, that's really important. And then you start to not eat as much of the processed foods and the refined sugars, and you start to stop craving all of that. So those are some of the things we definitely talk about. Also, I think hydration is really important. I know that when I was going through things, I did not drink nearly enough water as I should have been. And now I like to say that whatever your weight is, divide that in half, and that's a good starting point for how many ounces of water you should be, drinking a day. But obviously, if you're exercising or going in a sauna, or there can be other factors that can affect that. But I think hydration is really important as well. So yeah, just adding in more of those whole nourishing foods and shopping the perimeter at the grocery store is definitely something that I recommend.
Okay. No, I really like that rule of thumb. So let's say if you're 150 pounds, that would be 75 ounces of water a day, which is probably like 8 to 10 glasses, I'm guessing.
Mhm.
So which I don't think a lot of people are getting that amount. So that's definitely a good tip to keep in mind to keep hydrating. What are your thoughts on electrolytes in water?
I usually just add lemon to my water in the morning, or Celtic sea salt, add a little bit of that in as well. But I do think electrolytes are extremely important. I also think coconut water is great, and any like fruits that you can get that have those electrolytes in them as well. Watermelon, that's also really good.
Okay. I also really liked what you said about like it's more about what you're adding in versus taking out. I think having the mindset that these are the foods that I want to eat versus thinking these are the foods that I can't eat I think when you focus on what you can eat, it just eliminates the noise of like what you're trying to avoid, and it just creates a better mindset around it.
Absolutely, and that actually stems from kind of like how I shifted my own mindset because especially when we were going through everything with my mom, I'm reading about all this and I'm like, "Okay, well, we can't have that and we can't have that." And then it makes you want it even more. So it's really important to just shift your mindset, and if you have something that is not in your normal routine, it's okay. Give yourself grace and just start small with one habit at a time.
Okay, I really like that. Can you give us some tips around like cancer fighting foods specifically? Like which ones are I know you mentioned like vegetables and fruit, but like anything specifically in there that you recommend the most for cancer fighting properties?
Sure. So my mom and I, and this was actually something I learned from Chris Work's book, Chris Beat Cancer. We literally made his anti-cancer salad like every single day. So there's a lot of cruciferous vegetables in there, broccoli, cauliflower, there's avocado, there's hemp seeds, which are a great source of plant-based protein. We had what else? Mushrooms in there, extra virgin olive oil, make sure that it's a really good quality brand. Oh my gosh, there were so many things in there. Turmeric, spices are great.
Yes.
Parsley. It was a huge salad we made every day and it was so flavorful. Garlic, onion leeks, those are all fantastic as well.
Right.
And then in terms of fruit, like berries are excellent. And obviously, organic whenever possible. But if you're not able to do that, conventional is fine. We also really got into juicing. I don't know if juicing is something that you enjoy doing, but carrot juice for the beta carotene with ginger, also celery juice. Those are all excellent.
That's great. Have you heard of Brian Johnson, by the way? He's the owner of Venmo, and he has this company called Blueprint Now, which he's basically just gone deep into longevity. But that salad that you just described is very similar to a salad that he recommends. Like it has cruciferous vegetables, olive oil, garlic, ginger, turmeric, mushrooms, like all those spices in there. So it's really interesting that there's a lot of overlap there.
That is interesting. And I actually did watch his documentary a little while back and did check out his website to see some of his food plans and the things that he was eating. And I think in that salad, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the spices he used was cumin.
Cumin powder. Yes.
And so I remember I was trying some of his recipes and he put a lot of cumin in and I did as well. And I was like, wow, this is potent, but it was really
It
good.
totally changes like the flavor profile, but it was really good. Yeah, I agree. How do you prepare that salad? Do you steam it or do you blanch the vegetables? What do you do?
Honestly, it's raw. We try to eat raw just to get as many of the nutrients in it as possible. I know sometimes that can be hard on people's digestion. So if we ever cook anything like sweet potatoes, we would steam them. Brussels sprouts, steam them. Occasionally broccoli we would steam, but we tried to eat it raw whenever possible. And honestly, it was excellent, with the dressing and the extra virgin olive oil with some lemon juice and the turmeric and some of the other spices. I mean, it was honestly like one of the most flavorful salads that I ever had. And I still make it from time to time. I don't eat it as much today, but that exact salad. But I mean, it just had so many amazing foods in it. And it was so colorful. And it was honestly something we craved every single day. So it's absolutely delicious.
Okay, great. Maybe I'll try doing it raw. I usually end up steaming them, but I mean, I'm happy to try it raw and see how that turns out. I know there's more benefit to not steaming or not cooking it.
Yeah. And I've also heard some people actually like blending it up.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, I have not tried that, but I'd be curious, to see how that tastes as well.
Yeah, and I think the goal there is that, it's hard to eat a lot of vegetables, so some people just throw it in a blender and kinda just have it like a soup instead. But again, you're getting all the benefits of it, so whichever way you can figure out to get it down, I think is great.
Absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about inflammation. I think inflammation is a part of every single disease that's out there, cancer for sure. What are some foods that you think are anti inflammatory that people can incorporate into their day to day?
That's a great question. Definitely leafy greens. So, kale, spinach, things like that. Honestly, a lot of the foods that I mentioned in the anti cancer salad, I think avocados are great. I think extra virgin olive oil is great. Flaxseed, chia seeds. Yeah, a lot of those I think are really important for inflammation because inflammation is the cause of most diseases. I think it's hard for some people because the symptoms can be so vague with inflammation. So a lot of times they don't realize that that's what's going on in their body. So yeah, I think when you get to that anti-inflammatory diet, it just helps to kind of reset your system and just calm everything down.
Yes, absolutely. I've started to get my CRP levels checked through my oncologist, so they're able to check them on a quarterly basis. So CRP is C-reactive protein, and so if that's something that listening in, if you're curious about, it measures the level of inflammation in your body. So it's worth asking your oncologist or your primary care doctor. Is that something they can start tracking so you can see how you're making improvements to your inflammation levels?
That's really good to know. And I think another thing that I didn't mention would be the seed oils, which something that I knew absolutely nothing about years ago. So even now, when we go out to eat, go out to restaurants, I try to be mindful, and it's hard. But I would say like years ago, we went out to dinner all the time, and now we do it for special occasions. But I actually have learned to really love cooking at home and love going to the grocery store and you get to pick out those groceries and bring them home and prepare them and make this amazing meal. And I feel like it makes you appreciate even more so what you're eating and what you're fueling your body with, because essentially what you are eating becomes you in the following weeks afterwards. So it's so critical to fuel yourself with the things that are going to make you feel good, especially if you are dealing with any type of chronic symptoms or disease.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you've experienced this, but I've noticed now that I like mainly cook at home and I only cook with, either avocado oil, olive oil, or coconut oil. When I go out to eat at a restaurant, I actually end up having a lot of GI issues because they do use canola oil or like another seed oil. It just doesn't sit well with me. Have you had that experience as well?
Absolutely. I feel like it's every time we go out, and I also feel like everything tastes so much saltier. And like the next morning, I will feel so thirsty because of, like you said, the oils that are being used and the excessive amount of salt. But I guess when if you're eating that regularly, I guess your body just starts to get used to it and you don't really realize it until you start to eliminate all of those things.
Absolutely. I mean, I used to eat out quite a bit before or order in quite a bit before, and I never noticed these types of things. But now that I think that my body's like cleared them, and now if I try to like incorporate them, it just does not work.
Totally agree with you. I'm glad we're on the same page about that.
Okay. What do you think are some ways that someone can stay consistent with eating clean without feeling overwhelmed? Like people, obviously people are busy. They've got kids, they've got work. What are some like tips or, little tricks that they can do to maintain eating a clean lifestyle without burning themselves out?
That's a great question. And I think one of the biggest things is to just stick with a simple routine and have the mindset that cooking doesn't have to be complicated. The meals don't have to be complicated. They can be simple and should be simple, and they can still taste delicious. I think that was something in the beginning when I was changing a lot. I thought to myself, this is going to be so overwhelming. I don't even know where to begin. Also, the food is going to taste terrible. Like, this is going to be miserable. And it's not that complicated once you start to get into a routine of even just swapping out one thing at a time, and to just tell yourself that you're doing this for progress, not perfection. Just take it one day at a time and listen to your body and do what feels best. I know everybody is so busy, so if you're able to meal prep ahead of time or just prepare a few things or batch juice, that really can save a lot of time so that you're not having to prep every meal every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially with things like vegetables, which do require like I call it processing, but like, you have to like rinse them, like baking soda vinegar, and then dry them out. And then if you're juicing, you need to like chop up things. And so I think if you do that in like a batch setting, like whether it's like a Saturday or a Sunday when you have time and just get that ready for the week, that I think makes it a lot more sustainable throughout the week so that you already you're not coming home from work and then starting to like clean and do this whole process.
Totally agree. And I will say that that veggie chopper has been such a lifesaver for me. I use it to cut up everything. So yeah, I think I think those are great tips.
What's the brand of the one that you use?
I don't know off the top of my head. I got it off of Amazon, but I can send it to you.
Okay, great. And then you said mainly, you're eating on the perimeter of the grocery store. You're not having, are there any like snacks that you do like? Is there anything like packaged that or brands that you think are good and clean to have?
Sure. There are a couple that stick out that I usually always have something of theirs in the pantry, but I really like Simple Mills, like their crackers. Those are delicious and made with, clean ingredients. I love doing overnight oats in the morning. So the brand that I really like is called 1 Degree. They're organic sprouted oats. And they're also delicious. So I like those. Also, I know this isn't a food item, but my juicer that I use is the Nama.
Okay.
And I started juicing for my mom when she was going through her journey. And then I had just like a regular juicer that, you could find pretty much anywhere. It was a good starter juicer. And then after I started using it regularly, I thought, okay, I'm going to upgrade the juicer because we use it. So I did upgrade it to the Nama. And I absolutely love it because it's a cold press juicer. And you just throw all the vegetables in and it does all the work for you. And honestly, I use it every single morning when I'm home. So, and yes, it does take time, but I like to drink my juice as fresh as possible. So, of course, you can batch juice it, but I don't know. There's something about waking up in the morning that I love going downstairs and starting my day with some fresh juice. So I do love that brand.
Yeah, that's great. Now I've gone through a few juicers because I definitely was using them a lot and was just kind of grabbing, a cheaper option off of Amazon. And they work good, but like if you're using them every single day, like they get worn out. And I have gotten a new juicer. I think it's not Hugo. It's something like that. It's like a red juicer. I'll think of it and I'll put the link in the bio for this. But I agree. I think investing in a good juicer, also a good blender. I use a Vitamix blender to make smoothies. Is that something that you use as well?
I have the NutriBullet, but I've been dying to try the Vitamix, so I may have to give that one a try as well.
It's really good. Like you can put I think normally with a blender, you have to like phase out like what you're putting in at a time so it doesn't get too clumpy. With the Vitamix, you can throw it all in there. You can put your ice in there, just put it on high and it'll just blend it like a professional grade blender.
That's awesome. I do use my Cuisinart food processor all the time as well too. I love that. I have like the little mini one and then I have a bigger size one, but yeah, that's something I use regularly as well.
Okay, great. That's awesome. Um, okay, and then I guess a little bit towards wrapping up, do you have any tips for how someone can just make the whole, clean eating, living a healthier lifestyle not so complicated and how they can simplify their routines for that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think, again, it just goes back to starting small, one step at a time, one habit at a time. Pick one thing that you want to change. For example, if you feel like you're not hydrating properly and you want to increase your water intake, keep track of your intake each day and see how you're feeling and focus on that. Get up in the morning and pour yourself a glass of, I don't know, 16 ounces of lemon water and, drink it and see if that helps with your digestion first thing in the morning, if that helps, you feel more energized as long as you're keeping up with it throughout the rest of the day. But start with things like that. And then, you can just slowly build on that. And then you'll notice over time that you've made all these different changes and it wasn't something that you had to do all in the same day. For me, with my issues that I was dealing with COVID, it took me, honestly, a couple of years to fully recover from what I was dealing with. But in the beginning, one of the first things I did was I got a journal and I started to document everything I was eating each day and my symptoms. And I just tracked my progress. And if I noticed, oh, wow, like that didn't make me feel good, I would go back in my journal and see if I could make a connection, like, oh, wow, it didn't make me feel good when I ate it before either. Maybe that's something that, doesn't work for me. So yeah, just picking one habit at a time and building off of those.
I think that's such a great tip, and I think that's pretty much exactly how I've done it as well. I think when you get a cancer diagnosis, like, you are just so overwhelmed, you wanna change everything overnight, and while that sounds great in theory, it's just not practical and it's not sustainable, so I think picking one thing at a time, get it in your routine, then add in something else. I also love the idea of, like, a food journal and just tracking, like, what you ate and how you felt afterwards, I think is really important because otherwise you might end up feeling unwell and you're not exactly sure like what caused it, but keeping that tracker really helps just identify what it was and you can try to eliminate it and see if like that alleviates your symptoms.
Totally, and a lot of people ask me if I count calories or macros, and I do not, just because I think it would honestly stress me out, but I do think it's really important to track your symptoms, track how you're feeling, track, what works best for you.
Yeah. What about when you have clients that do want to lose weight? Do you do calorie counting with them or are you still more of like an intuitive eater that you tell them to go that way?
So I feel like that would be out of the scope of my practice. So if it's something that I feel like I'm not able to fully help them with, or that I'm not like an expert in that area, I will give them the resources or maybe recommend a health coach to them who does specialize in that, because, I want them to get the help that they need from somebody who is an expert in that area. And if it's not me, then, I kind of will redirect them to somebody else.
Okay, great. I love that. That's great. Okay, so I would love to know what's next for you. You're doing your coaching. Are there any exciting things coming up or what do you have planned?
So, yes, I am doing my coaching now. I'm so excited because I just recently got this up and running. So, I am accepting clients and enrolling clients. As far as what's next in the future, nothing set in stone, but obviously, I do share my healthy recipes on social media. So, of course, it would be a dream of mine to maybe one day have a cookbook or something of that sort, but nothing is set in stone just yet. But there are a lot of exciting things to come, so I'm excited.
That's awesome. And how can someone follow you on social media?
So you can follow me. It's my name at Lindsay.Keosayian, Keosayian. I do have a link in my bio that has, links to everything else, my health coaching and some of my favorite links. So yeah, I'd love to connect with you guys and chat more.
Awesome. Thank you, Lindsay, so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bisma. It's been great.
Thanks for listening to The Other C Word, hosted by Bismology. New episodes drop Mondays. Connect with me on socials at Bismology, and let's all learn, grow, and inspire each other.